Big rallies yesterday in Ohio and Pennsylvania. You know, Hillary Clinton had about 10,000 people at a rally in Cleveland last night. Jay-Z and Beyonce were there giving a concert. Donald Trump says, who needs Jay-Z and Beyonce? He did 10, 11,000 people in both Ohio and Pennsylvania yesterday, and it was just him. Listen to what he said in Hershey last night.
I didn't have to bring J-Lo or Jay-Z. The only way she gets anybody. Just me. No guitar, no piano, no nothing. But you know what we do have? And it's all of us. It's all the same. We all have great ideas and great vision for our country. That's what we have.
And the Donald Trump campaign releasing a new ad today that is a $4 million buy nationally. You'll see it on your national news programs, entertainment programs, also on the NCAA games today, the NFL, and NASCAR tomorrow. It's his closing argument for America. Here's just a short piece of it.
The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Here's a look at where Trump is today. He's got a rally this morning in Florida at the Tampa Fairgrounds. That's at 10 o'clock. From here, he goes to North Carolina, then all the way over to Nevada, and then back to Colorado, part of an 11-state, 12-event swing that he's got going in this closing weekend of the election campaign. So Donald Trump's pilot putting the throttles all the way forward, and there is just no slowing down this weekend for the Trump campaign.
No, some real momentum. John Roberts, thank you. We'll see you shortly.
Thanks a million, John. Have you all seen the 2-minute spot they did for Trump people?
Yeah.
I mean, it is really macro. It is not, I mean, he just ascends to 35,000 feet, and his critique is the entire system is corrupt. He's got an attack on the Federal Reserve in there. I mean, it's really big concept stuff.
The timing is so perfect with everything going on the other side of things with Hillary Clinton. And when John Roberts talks about momentum, there's something real there. When you look at these swing states, and even in just the last 2 weeks, how some of these polls have gone from like him being down 12 points to now being totally neck and neck. You look at a place like New Hampshire, that's very much in play for Donald Trump, which he didn't expect.
Well, and it's also interesting to see how many early votes have come in, because during this last swing, you know, millions of votes cast, even starting at the beginning of October. So will this late momentum push some of those undecideds and have many people already cast their vote? They're already decided, well, this isn't going to matter to us much.
Well, and Hillary Clinton is obviously feeling that momentum from the Trump side, so she's pulling out all the cards. She's bringing out all the star power, as we mentioned, that she can help win over the young voters. And that's where we find Mike Emanuel. He's following all the action from across the Sunshine State in Miami. Good morning, Mike.
Abby, Tucker, Clayton, good morning to you. The Clinton campaign is pulling out all the stops with time left in the race so precious. We've got a map to show you where Clinton and her key surrogates are investing their time and energy today. The Democratic ticket, Clinton and Tim Kaine, will be here in battleground Florida. No surprise, with 29 electoral votes at stake here in the Sunshine State. Bernie Sanders going west to Iowa and Colorado. Former President Bill Clinton and daughter Chelsea in North Carolina, and Vice President Joe Biden in Pennsylvania. Last night, Clinton had Jay-Z and Beyonce help her campaign in Cleveland. They tried energizing a mostly young African-American crowd, with Clinton selling the chance to make history on Election Day.
Well, we have unfinished business to do, more barriers to break, and with your help, a glass ceiling to crack once and for all.
Finally tonight, Katy Perry will lend her star power at a Get Out the Vote event in Philadelphia with Hillary Clinton. So much of it now at this point for the Clinton team and also for the Trump team is really getting out your key constituencies. Abby, Tucker, Clayton.
Mike Emanuel, live from Florida. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Of course, Katy Perry at the DNC. She was the big headline act that night when Bill Clinton was in the front row swaying back and forth watching Katy Perry.
So you watch Hillary. I mean, I keep thinking, like, if she were to win in 3 days, what would her mandate be? What is she running on? So she's still 3 days out telling us the reason to vote for her is because of her sex, something she did not choose. She had no control over at all. I mean, I'm not saying that's crazy, but is that really a rationale to vote for her? Maybe that's why people don't seem that. Maybe some people seem afraid of Trump. They don't seem that enthusiastic for her to be.
Well, and that's what we've seen continuously in these polls, but I think more than ever just in the past few weeks in these polls is the lack of enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. You've mentioned this, Tucker, before about Donald Trump. You can talk about bringing out these stars on the stage to get people to vote, but what he does that I think Hillary Clinton has continued to struggle with is he has this ability to connect emotionally with voters. You know, you don't have to agree with everything that Donald Trump says, but there are moments where you're like, I feel with him. I understand what he's talking about. And like I said,
it's reflected in that piece, that 2-minute piece you were just talking about. That's the thing that got him into this race. It's almost as if he's come full circle, reminding people again why he's running in the first place, that the whole system is rigged, that, look, I'm not a political insider. I'm not a Washington insider. Everyone in Washington is But
he wasn't running on that at the beginning. That's the interesting thing. I mean, he began on immigration and trade, and then he's really kind of expanded his critique of American society as this campaign.
I think he's learned a lot through this campaign.
I certainly have. It's certainly changed my view of the country, and I think it's changed the country itself.
And you see this enthusiasm gap, perhaps, in this past few weeks, even more, more under the microscope now. Hillary Clinton going to these events. You see tens of thousands of people. That was playing out all summer. Donald Trump able to get people lined up around the block at these events when his primary running mates weren't having, Jeb Bush. There was like a lack of enthusiasm. So last night you had this Beyonce concert. And if you watch some of the other networks, they were actually streaming this concert live. Jay-Z, Beyonce, they're on stage, ready to introduce Hillary Clinton, coming out at the end of the night. I think it was like almost 11 o'clock at night when she finally takes the stage. And the New York Times sort of captured the enthusiasm as people started to make their way to the exit last night when she comes out on stage. They said this. They said this: the challenges facing Mrs. Clinton were clearly on display on Friday. When she took the stage and began making the case for her candidacy, dozens of people began leaving the arena, the performance now over.
Yikes.
But look.
Well, you can see why she's not, again, she's not running on anything. So it's fine to say, okay, I'm not Trump and Trump is bad, all right. But if she wins on Wednesday, what is her presidency about? Not being Trump and being friends with Jay-Z? I mean, there's kind of a lot of air in there. There's like nothing there.
And I think the numbers and even our most recent polling that came out last night, where it's really a 1-2 point difference between the two, I think those say it all, because when you think about Hillary Clinton, who has been running for president for how long, she has got the money, she's had the ground game. Donald Trump came in this thing, never running for office before, doesn't have any of that to his advantage, and still how close it is. I think that says everything about where the enthusiasm is. And the question is, with this momentum, if there's enough time for Trump to actually win this thing come Tuesday. Because I think if this were held 2 weeks from now, the situation might look different than 3 days from now.
70% of the votes already in Florida at this stage, so 3 days left.
Crazy. Can't believe we're here. But we do have some other headlines to get to this morning. Starting with, in North Carolina, a judge making sure thousands of people can vote, even if they no longer live in that key swing state. That judge ordered nearly 4,000 voter registrations be reinstated after being purged from the polls when mailings to their homes were returned as undeliverable. The NAACP initiating the challenge, calling the purge of invalid voters a violation of rights. Now remember, you don't have to show an ID in to vote in North Carolina. Volunteers will simply take you at your word. And the Democratic National Committee, already dealing with those demanding email hacks, may have a more serious problem on its hands. A new report this morning suggesting its Washington, D.C. headquarters may have been bugged. The DNC has reportedly submitted evidence of that breach to the FBI. Two anonymous DNC officials said a sweep of its D.C. offices found a radio signal device near the chairman's office, one which could have been used to listen to those phone calls. However, no surveillance device has been recovered and no culprits have been identified. And New Jersey Governor Chris Christie canceling his trip to New Hampshire today, where he was supposed to campaign for Donald Trump after a bombshell jury verdict for two former aides of his, Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni. They were both convicted on multiple charges, including conspiracy and fraud in a plot to shut down traffic lanes on the George Washington Bridge. And a Democratic member of the Electoral College in Washington state now saying that he refuses to vote for Hillary Clinton no matter what his state decides. Presidential elector Robert Satayacum says Clinton doesn't do enough to support Native American issues. He's so bent on keeping her out of office, he has said that he hopes, quote, it comes down to a swing vote, so it can be him that ultimately brings it all down. He could face a $1,000 fine for voting against the popular vote. Wow. This election just keeps getting crazier. Those are some of your headlines this morning.
It is unbelievable.
All right. Well, the mainstream media says Hillary Clinton does have a clear path to 270, but is Donald Trump's path easier than you might think? Caitlin Huey-Burns will break down the electoral map next.
And then WikiLeaks revealed that the Democratic National Committee tried to sabotage the Bernie Sanders for president campaign.
No, say it ain't so.
Yes, they did. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz says she knows the truth. No quotation marks around that. Up ahead.
Welcome back. Hillary Clinton's path to the White House has been laid out pretty clearly by following President Obama's footsteps. But is Donald Trump's path easier than you might think? Here with a few roadmaps to a Trump White House is Real Clear Politics' Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, nice to see you this morning.
Good morning.
All right, we're in front of the touch screen here. We're going to dive into some of the battleground states. So does Trump actually have a path to victory?
Well, now there's a little bit of a path that's become more clear. Basically, what he has to do is three things. He has to win all the states Romney won, which includes North Carolina, which is a tie right now. Then he has to flip all the remaining battlegrounds, so Florida, Ohio, Nevada. Then he has to flip a blue state. And there are a couple different opportunities and scenarios for him to do that. It's still a very rough path. There are more options for Hillary Clinton, but as the map stands now, here we go.
All right, let's dive in. So this is scenario one. What does scenario one look like?
So scenario one is looking at the Real Clear Politics polling averages and looking where Hillary Clinton is leading or where Trump is leading. So as it stands now, if the race were today, according to those averages, this is the electoral map that we would see on election night. But we'll go through a few different scenarios. So if Trump flips Florida, remember they're all spending lots of time there, that should get him to 270 to 268 for Clinton.
Wow, so just Florida, 29 electoral votes.
Exactly, just flipping Florida, and that's why you're seeing both of them fly in and out of there pretty regularly. All their top surrogates are going there. North Carolina is a really important state this cycle, and it is tied, but Trump really needs to keep it.
So President Obama campaigning there just the other day saying all eyes on North Carolina. This could be the most important state in the election.
Exactly, but if Trump can't keep it, he has to make it somewhere else.
So if he doesn't...
So if he loses, let's say, take away Florida for a second, then take away North Carolina, that's what we're looking at, okay? And then if he gets Florida, that gets him close, but he has to make it up in one more place. So he's been campaigning in Pennsylvania, where he's going this weekend, and that should flip.
What's interesting to me as you take away North Carolina and you still have Ohio. So Trump with an Ohio, he has Maine, he has some of these other states here. He's still way behind, even picking up Ohio.
Exactly, that's a great point. Even if he wins Ohio and Florida, he still needs to make up ground elsewhere. So he could go to Pennsylvania or a place like Michigan, where he's been seeing some of the polls tighten a little bit. So that would get you to 275 for Trump if he were to win Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is considered fool's gold for Republicans. They always try to compete there and they never really win. For the past 2 decades, Democrats have won. So we'll see if he can make it there. The polls are tightening a bit.
All right, what about the 269-269 scenario?
This is
Maine?
Exactly. Can you imagine Maine deciding this election? So Maine divides their electoral votes by congressional district, and the second congressional district in Maine has 1 point, but it is tied right now. So this is the scenario we're looking at before.
Come on, Maine, you can do it.
Come on.
It's like playing Plinko on there we go. Oh, come on, Maine, you can do it. Maine doesn't want to go. Come on, so there's two.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Maine's getting close. But there is a scenario in which if he were to lose that district in Maine and win Florida, that would get you to 269, tie, vote goes to the House, and us reporters are continuing to talk about this election longer than it already has been.
Maine could decide everything if we get that 269. I want to ask you real quick before we wrap it up here, Pennsylvania. Yeah. We were talking just a few minutes ago downstairs on the curvy couch about the fact that Pennsylvania, one of those states that does not do that early voting.
Exactly.
So all eyes on Tuesday in Pennsylvania. Where do things stand right now?
It's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because if you notice, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton will be spending the last night before election night in Philadelphia. Clinton is going back to Pennsylvania throughout the weekend, sending all her top surrogates there. She's been ahead consistently in the polls, although they've narrowed to about a 3-point lead for her. Pennsylvania does not vote early, so it's one of those states like New Hampshire that also doesn't vote early, can be influenced by late-breaking news and late-breaking trends because they don't have that advantage of going early. So Pennsylvania is always the place that campaigns focus really intensely in the last minute.
I mean, it's a stark difference. Pennsylvania, no early voting. Florida, as of this morning, about 70% of the votes could already be done in Florida. Caitlin, great to see you this morning.
Thank
great breakdown.
So much.
Fascinating stuff. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. Well, here's a question for you. Are men too sexist to elect a female president? Listen.
There's a reason why we haven't had a woman president before.
I know there's a bunch of guys that are upset about having a woman president. They just don't want to fess up to it.
Is that the real reason Hillary isn't running away with the race? David Webb and Chuck Rocha are here to debate that. Coming up next. Plus, Anthony Weiner goes to rehab. on a horse, Putin style.
25 minutes after the hour, back with some quick headlines, starting with a Fox News alert. An NYPD sergeant killed, another officer wounded in a shootout in the Bronx. Gunfire erupting as the officers were responding to a home invasion. The suspect crashing his getaway car on a nearby street before shooting one of the officers at point-blank range. Sergeant Paul Tuizzolo later died of his wounds. So sad. His partner shot in the leg. He is expected to make a full recovery. To date, 53 officers have been shot and killed in the line of duty. And 3 American service members killed in Jordan. The Pentagon says they were killed in a shootout just outside of a military base in the southern part of that country. What we know is that shots were fired as a car carrying the Americans tried to enter the base there, but why still remains unclear. Tucker, over to you.
Thanks, Abby. President Obama and former President Bill Clinton have a message to male voters. You're awful, you sexists. Watch.
Hillary Clinton is consistently treated differently than just about any other candidate I see out there. To the guys out there, I want to be honest. You know, there's a reason why we haven't had a woman president before.
I know there's a bunch of guys that are upset about having a woman president. They just don't want to fess up to it. Take it from me. You'll get used to it in a hurry. It'll be good.
The latest Fox News poll has Clinton's lead dwindling to about 2 points nationally ahead of Trump in a 4-way race. Is this a contested election just because she's a woman? Here to debate it is David Webb, radio talk show host and Fox News contributor, and in Washington, D.C., Chuck Rocha. He's a Democratic strategist. Great to see you both. First to you, Chuck. So President Obama's been telling us for 8 years that if you disagree with this or that policy, you're probably a racist. Now they're telling us if you disagree with Hillary, you're probably a sexist. Does this work as a political matter?
Well, there's a few things that I know for a fact, but only a couple. One is that women are smarter than men, and more of them will show up to vote this election than others. It's a political strategy that they have to use, that we have to use, to try to get women to show up and vote for her, right? Because we haven't had any kind of a policy debate. So you use this because it's literally the most critical part of the electorate that has to show up outside of Philly and a few of the suburbs. Whether you love Donald Trump or you love Hillary Clinton, I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. I'm like a baseball ump. I'm just telling you balls and strikes, and this is a strategy to try to win a general election.
No, that's exactly right. And the point, David, as Chuck just said, is we haven't had a real policy debate, and we don't have to have one as long as I believe that you're on the other side because you're basically a bad person, you're unreasonable, you're bigoted, you're sexist. That's what they're saying. I'm not even going to listen to you. You're evil.
Exactly, Tucker, and we've seen this play. This is the playbook from the Democrats. Your opponent's somewhere to run away from. After all, when Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton in 2008, if you went against Obama and you were white, you were a racist. If you were black, you were an Uncle Tom or a House Negro. And now, according to Barack Obama, if you object to Hillary Clinton's policies, you're a sexist. This is that basic left approach that you have innate skills. You're either a racist, a sexist, you have some form of ism, and you just don't know it. So let me tell you, as the lecturer-in-chief of the nation, what you are and why you need to correct it by doing exactly what I say. You know, Chuck's actually right about this, and this is why Americans are sick of the political class and the elitists telling us who and what we are. Americans have real issues they want to deal with, not politicians who are cynical and frankly insulting to the nation.
Well, and also divisive. I mean, so Chuck, somebody's going to win in 3 days. And if it's Hillary Clinton, kind of weird that she's at this late stage attacking voters. I mean, it's one thing to attack your opponent or the party or the ideas, but to turn around at the country itself and say, you know what, there's something really wrong with you. That person's going to have a hard time uniting this country if she were to become president, no?
So Tucker, you know, I've run a lot of campaigns, and what happens and what's normally supposed to happen the last few days, because everybody's been early voting, is you're supposed to take a pivot from all of this nastiness and kind of rise above it to do your closing argument. You saw, and I heard you allude to it earlier, the 2-minute video about kind of rising above it, and Hillary had all of that laid out, but everything changed here in this election 5 days ago with all the stuff about the emails and about the FBI, and there's been a whole pivot, and now we are trying to actually turn out our base. You've seen the money start flowing to Michigan and Wisconsin. Democrats Democratic strongholds, because now we went from Razabovich down, and we need to get the base out to vote.
Right, but this is the cynicism that comes with this. And again, it's telling the American people, we need you to do exactly what we want because you're not capable of thinking for yourself. Frankly, I'm offended. I was offended in 2008 when those charges were made. And Americans should be offended now that the elitists have decided that whatever we tell you is how you act, and if you don't, you have something. Hillary Clinton said we were not only deplorable, we were irredeemable. How is she going to be president of a country that's full of a bunch of sexist irredeemables who didn't vote for her?
I'm going to heaven and you're not. David Webb, Chuck Rocha, great to see you both. Thanks a lot for that.
Congratulations, Tucker.
Thanks.
Congratulations, man.
Well, there's a new front in the war against the FBI. The mainstream media joins Team Clinton. They've been there for a while, saying the reason the FBI is investigating Hillary is that because most of the agents are, brace yourselves, Caucasian. Wow. Plus, early voting already underway in the battleground state of Florida. One group is not getting an early start. We have a live report straight ahead.
The big story is Election Day is on Tuesday, and I read that Krispy Kreme is giving out free donuts to anyone who shows their I voted sticker. That's right, Krispy Kreme. So that way you can make two decisions you're not really proud of. You're going...
Wait, is that true? On the I mean, I don't know if you've probably never had a Krispy Kreme.
Oh, many boxes.
You can't
especially when the hot sign's up. You got to go in there and get
But you don't feel good about it.
No,
you really don't.
It's instant regret.
Well, the problem is they're so small, though, and they're so tasty, you end up having like 5 of them.
Right,
Or
because
the
they
whole
just
box.
dissolve in your mouth. You're like, I didn't even eat one.
It's like
I'll have
candy.
4,
Yeah.
and now I'm starting to
They
feel
jump
full.
into your mouth. Well, for the last year, we've watched the press basically parrot the Hillary Clinton campaign positions on virtually everything, even as those positions get weirder, more esoteric, and harder to believe. Here is Politico, which really has been the most slavish of all the news organizations in sort of helping the Hillary campaign, come out attacking the FBI on these grounds, and I'm quoting, with 60% white male agents, the Bureau doesn't reflect the nation, whatever that means. Did its conservative culture play a role in Comey's decision to reveal the renewed Clinton email probe? FBI too white, therefore illegitimate, says Politico.
And then here's another one from Politico, a quote from there. The typical Federal Bureau of Investigation special agent is white, male, and middle-aged, often with a military background. In short, drawn from the segment of the U.S. population most likely to support GOP nominee Donald Trump. I saw a bunch of other stories over the past few days.
I couldn't believe when I saw that headline. I couldn't believe that they were writing these stories.
I saw a couple of other stories over the past few days highlighting that there are Trump factions within the FBI, and therefore that's why Rudy Giuliani was able to get this leaked information a few days ahead of time, that they're leaking this information to the Trump campaign.
But where was the editor? I mean, I know the guys who started Politico. They're sort of normal people. It used to be kind of a normal, it was always slightly left, maybe. They've gone so far out. You think if I'm the editor of that story, I'm saying, what? No? We're attacking the FBI because you think there are too many white people there? First of all, isn't that kind of no, that's disgusting.
Right, and where were these stories back in July when James Comey came out and didn't charge Hillary Clinton for anything? I mean, the politics is crazy.
Who was appointed by President Obama, by the way? Just, I mean, just to like inject some reality.
But also, I mean, we're talking about, the FBI and so many of these men and women who serve this country. I mean, to me, I find it a bit offensive.
Well, shouldn't the point be the FBI is there to fight crime? It's our national police force. And so the most important question you can ask, the only real question, relevant one, is, are they doing a good job fighting crime? Who cares what the demographics of this is? Like nuts, actually.
Well, the president addressed this the other night in an interview with his friend, Reverend Al Sharpton. Listen.
Historically, both under Democratic and Republican administrations, our goal has been and should be that our investigators and our prosecutors are independent of politics, that they're not politicized, that they're not used as a weapon to advantage either side in partisan argument.
So you asked for some quick headlines, and we're delivering. First up, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie canceled his trip to New Hampshire today. He was supposed to campaign for Donald Trump there, but there was a bombshell jury verdict for 2 of his former aides. Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni were convicted on multiple charges. They include conspiracy and fraud. It all stems from a plot to shut down traffic lanes on the GW Bridge. They face a lot of jail time, potentially. And then Chicago rolls out the red carpet for the World Series winners, the Cubs. 5 million people turned out to cheer on the team as they took a victory lap around downtown. The Cubs won the first championship in 108 years. They did it in Game 7 with a win over the Cleveland Indians, one of the most dramatic World Series games in memory. Abby?
Such an emotional win, wasn't that? Unbelievable. All right, well, the war on the FBI, it only continues as President Obama slams James Comey's decision to revisit the Hillary Clinton email probe just days before this election.
Historically, both under Democratic and Republican administrations, our goal has been and should be that our investigators and our prosecutors are independent of politics, that they're not politicized, that they're not used as a weapon to advantage either side in partisan arguments. When you are investigating a case, then unless you have unearthed something, you need to just do your job.
Joining us now with the latest rumblings within the White House and the FBI, the author of the New York Times bestselling book, Guilty as Sin, the great Ed Klein. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be here.
On the couch. So you've got your sources.
Yes.
What are these rumblings? What is going on behind closed doors at the FBI?
Well, you know, that clip from the president says it all. Behind the scenes, the White House would like nothing more than to fire this guy, Comey.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been talking about it, but it would be a Saturday night massacre. I mean, he can't do it. Comey knows that. And he's going full tilt, according to my sources, both on Mrs. Clinton's emails, but more importantly, on the pay-to-play and the Haiti connection because of all the lucrative contracts that the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, steered to cronies and donors in Haiti. And where did all the money go? Because we don't know.
It's a great question. It's a remarkable thing we just saw, though. The President of the United States basically attacking the FBI director he appointed. He chose James Comey and calling him partisan.
Yeah.
There must have been a lot of debate about that. That's a big deal that
It's a huge deal. And Valerie Jarrett actually suggested to him that he fire Comey, which he can do, by the way, legally. But if he did that, I mean, it would be an obstruction of justice.
That was an interview with Al Sharpton, by the way, the former FBI informant. I mean, there's so much symbolism going on.
I know.
Fire him, but they weren't looking to fire him a few months ago.
No, they loved him a few months ago. Exactly,
Clinton,
yeah.
So this is all politics.
Here's what my sources are telling me. They're saying that there's a very good chance that if she's elected president on November 8th, by the time inauguration comes around, Comey will have recommended an indictment of the president-to-be.
That's what your sources are
telling me. And it would be a constitutional crisis of enormous
Something
proportions.
we've never experienced before.
Because the Attorney General, with, of course, the president's backing, is not going to accept his recommendation for an indictment. So there'll be this titanic battle between the FBI on the one hand, the Attorney General and the White House on the other hand, just before the inauguration.
You play this all out historically. She becomes president. She actually puts her hand on the Bible, becomes president. The vice president then maybe, Tim Kaine, takes over. This would be remarkable.
I was thinking, you know, if she becomes president, and what if she becomes debilitated for reasons of health? That's the other aspect of this that nobody ever discusses. Are we going to get the goofy Tim Kaine as our vice president moving in, or will we have Bill Clinton behind the scenes being a kind of Edith Wilson-like when Woodrow Wilson had his stroke?
Well, in the age of the internet, harder to pull that off.
That's right.
I want you to talk about the FBI and the culture inside the FBI for a moment. And you say, according to your sources, that it's just a toxic environment at the FBI. How does Comey right that ship? Can he, or is he out after election?
He's very much aware of this. There are stacks of resignation letters right now on his desk that he has not signed. When he walks down the hallways of the FBI and says good morning to his agents, some of them don't even talk to him and respond. I mean, it's really a bad sense of morale there. He knows it. His own wife, I'm told, by family friends are telling him, Jim, actually he's referred to as Big Jim by a lot of people because he's 6'8", as you know. You did the wrong thing. I think he's absolutely determined to do what he thinks is the right thing this time, which is to follow the new emails that have been coming from what's his name, Anthony Weiner's laptop computer to the ultimate conclusion that Mrs. Clinton should, in fact, be indicted.
What happens if Donald Trump wins? What happens with the FBI?
Well, I think the FBI will do its job anyway. I think, even if Donald Trump wins, I think Hillary's in for big trouble from the FBI.
Man, so finally, you've detailed, you wrote a whole entire book about the tension between the Clintons and the Obamas.
Yes.
And you see President Obama going all the way. Just no stops. I've never seen a president this activist and this partisan in a presidential election. What is that about?
Well, it's either Hillary or Donald. And if Donald comes in, he undoes the entire legacy.
Yes.
So the president has no choice. He has to look like he wants Hillary, and he really does want Hillary because Hillary will carry on his legacy if she's elected president.
Wow.
Amazing.
Learned a lot from you this morning.
Ed Klein, great to see you this morning.
Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, so what does Eric Bolling think is going to happen on Tuesday? Well, guess what? We woke him up extra early this morning. He joins us live. There he is, right after the break.
And when you fall off, get back on that horse. Anthony Weiner has taken that advice literally. We'll tell you what this picture.
If you're voting here in New York, you should listen to this. I read that ballot selfies are banned here in New York City for Election Day. So I guess that means Anthony Weiner won't be voting this year. Election with an L. Election Day.
Oh, gosh, you can't make it up.
No. Yes, you can't make it up.
You really can't. This whole
a man who's been following this from the very beginning, who has never varied in his prediction that we're going to see a massive upset, is Eric Bolling of the Five, who joins us now on the set.
Well, thanks for having me. Good to be back. Good to be back.
So, are you still feeling confident?
Yeah, I do. You talked to Starwell about some of the paths. There are numerous paths. I think that we come Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, you see a lot of states that have flipped both ways. I don't think it's all set and done that she only needs one or he only needs this certain path. I think you're going to see a lot of surprises.
I want to get your take on the FBI and the latest on this investigation. What now? The Democrats, their strategy is to attack the FBI, go after James Comey. You remember back in July, of course.
He was a hero.
He was a hero.
Yeah.
And here's a Politico headline this morning. I'll read this to you. The FBI looks like Trump's America. Just digest this, if you will, Eric. The 67% white male agents, the Bureau doesn't reflect the nation. Did its conservative culture play a role in Comey's decision to reveal the renewed Clinton email probe? They're 67% white. That's why they're going after Clinton.
That's insane. The reason they're going after Clinton because they found some evidence. The agents, there were 4 agencies within the FBI, 4 different offices, who found something, and they pressed James Comey to reinvestigate what's going on. That's what it is. It's not color. It's not partisanship. They just said, look, we've been working hard. We've been, due diligence over the past, 2 years, and we found stuff that you should take another look at. And so he did. And as you point out, Clayton, accurately, a couple of months ago, James Comey was the hero for saying, hey, I don't recommend an indictment. Now there are potential 2 avenues of indictments, and I don't remember who said it, but there is a very, very real possibility if Hillary Clinton is the next president-elect, she could be indicted on 2 separate avenues.
You know where this came from? This is like a flat-out Hillary campaign, David Brock, Media Matters talking point that somebody fed to Politico. 5 years ago, they would have said, that's too stupid. We're not going with that. Now, it's like every news organization is just transcribing the most ludicrous possible talking points from the campaign.
Look what WikiLeaks has showed us. Glenn Thrush, you saw where he actually sent a piece to Podesta saying, hey, what don't you like about this piece? I'll take this out. And then he calls himself a political hacker, a hack, whatever. John Harwood at CNBC, some of the most egregious stuff I've ever seen now. Yeah. I'm an opinion journalist. I'm not a news journalist, but I got to tell you, I don't think that stuff would fly in any newsroom.
Donna Brazile?
Yeah. Donna Brazile.
From CNN?
To CNN's credit, they fired her.
Yeah, no,
they needed to fire her, but the DNC should fire her too.
That was just bad. All right, so who knows what will happen on Tuesday? The polls are tight. The swing states are all tight. Hillary Clinton still does have a slight advantage, though, in the numbers in the Electoral College. So let's talk about what matters after that, if she does win, and the policies that will go into place. What we've learned a lot from the WikiLeaks and these emails is things that she has said behind closed doors about how she feels she wants to take this country, whether it's open borders, whether it's, the single payer tax, single payer health care. How should people be thinking about that?
There's a great summary if you go back to yesterday's Wall Street Journal op-ed, and it talks about the cost of Clinton, and it goes through the $1 trillion that she's already pledged to raise taxes. It talks about the cost of businesses, small businesses and big businesses, of increased regulation that she talks about. Talks about the expanding Obamacare, how much that's going to cost. It goes through, and then the last note is that will stifle economic growth going forward. There's a massive stat out there that the Trump campaign should be highlighting these last 3 days. President Obama, over 8 years, has never had 1 year of 3% growth. That doesn't sound like much, right? Except every single president, including the ones that were president during the Great Depression, had at least 1 year of 3% GDP growth. Obama never had it. Hillary Clinton, Obama on steroids for the economy. And you don't want that. Ask the middle class. Ask the people between the coast, the flyover country, if it's been great for them.
You hear the president last night in his sit-down interview with his friend Reverend Al Sharpton, and he said, you know, what do you want your final message to be, your closing argument? He said, look, we're sitting right now on this fantastic jobs report that we just had the other day. Yeah. Fantastic jobs report. What do you make of that?
160,000 jobs when they were expecting 175,000 jobs. The real number, the real unemployment number isn't 4.9%. It's 9.5% when you take the 91 million people out of the workforce, or the several million people who've left the workforce because they just can't find a job and they gave up. You put them back in, and you have to. You have to. There are fewer people working now, even though the population is growing, than when President Obama took office. If you put them back into the equation, it's 9.5%. Look, Wall Street's doing great. The top 1 to 5% are doing fantastic, you know. And then you hit from $250,000 all the way down to about $30,000. The middle class, the rest of the country is getting squeezed. Prices are going up. Wages are not going up. The lower level, under 30, you're doing pretty well, too, because you're getting a lot of redistribution entitlements.
Well, just look at our polling.
That middle part is where the country is.
I mean, the Democratic coalition is the rich and the poor, and they're fully on board for Hillary, but the middle of the country is getting hammered. These policies hurt them and their Republican voters. Is that an accident?
Obamacare is no joke. This increase in Obamacare, 25% across the board, some states 100%, is killing the middle part of the country, the middle class. The lower middle class, they're just not. Young people are deciding to take the penalty instead of buying Obamacare, and that's why the whole thing is collapsing.
And many people said that was going to happen well before today.
Of course.
And that is.
But these are Democrat policies. You want 4 or 8 more years of this? You got to be out of your mind. You got to get out and vote. Get out and vote.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Eric Bowling, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Tucker, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well earned and deserved.
Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Great to see this one.
All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning. Starting with this, the woman who made headlines earlier this year accusing Donald Trump of sexual assaulting her when she was just 13 years old, suddenly dropping that lawsuit. This after many criticized her case for its complete lack of evidence. And Trump's legal team denied the allegations last April, calling them, quote, disgusting and politically motivated. Paul Ryan has a message for those who say he is planning on stepping down as House Speaker.
Nope, not true. Don't believe everything you read. I am interested in staying on as Speaker. You know why? Because we have an agenda that we have to put into law in 2017.
That is Ryan clearing the air after 4 House Republicans anonymously told the website The Hill they expected Ryan to step down after Tuesday's election. And Deputy Wasserman Schultz insisting that the DNC is not rigged, claiming she, not Bernie Sanders, is the real victim.
The Sanders campaign began aggressively trying to find a scapegoat and turn the attention away from mistakes that they made. And they did so successfully and made me the boogie woman. But that's okay.
The boogie woman. Well, Wasserman Schultz was forced to step down as chair of the DNC just days before the convention after emails showed coordination with Hillary Clinton's campaign against Bernie Sanders. And listen to this story. Anthony Weiner saddling up in sex rehab. You can see him right there. The new photos obtained by the New York Post show the former politician and estranged husband to Uma Abedin trotting through a Tennessee ranch. Weiner was caught sexting women, including an underage girl, while still married to Abedin, who is Hillary Clinton's top aide. Equine therapy is included in the $25,000 35-day rehab program. And I'm learning a lot this morning about what this therapy entails. Apparently horse riding.
Riding around on horseback with a helmet.
Yeah, that'll cure your sex addiction, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh.
But, you know, it's interesting. It's a therapy place, and they're allowing the press in to take photos. Those kinds of places don't have press allowed in there
so
at all.
I couldn't even watch the Wiener movie. I tried to watch it, and it was so depressing and creepy and weird that I had to turn it off.
You gotta watch it, though. It's just...
Oh, I couldn't make myself. All right, imagine living in a one-bedroom apartment with 82 other people. It's happening in California. 83 voters, air quotes around voters, living in the same house. Does that sound legitimate to you? We've got details next.
Plus, Geraldo Rivera, the former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, and the Reverend Franklin Graham. They are all joining us live. It is going to be another big hour to go here. This morning, is it a typo or a knock against Hillary Clinton? Ballots in one Arkansas county listing the Democratic nominee with an extra I, making her Hillary Clinton. Lonoke County's election commissioner has apologized for this error, and they insist it was not done intentionally. And Donald Trump may be right about voter fraud after dozens of ballots are sent to one house. That's right, a California woman finding nearly 90 ballots stacked on her mailbox addressed to different people. The election office says it was a computer glitch and is working to identify any similar incidents. Okay, talk to us.
Well, we're on the edge of our seats waiting to see which way the tide turns in several important swing states.
Maybe you're wondering if there is a chance in Pennsylvania. Could that swing towards Trump?
Connell McShane is live for us in Philadelphia with the latest. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, this wasn't in play, and now Hillary Clinton is spending time here, just 3 days to go.
No doubt she'll be here this evening. She'll be back here on Monday night. I mean, you're right. We thought this was a reliably blue state. Hasn't gone Republican since 1988. But if you look at the numbers on it, there's no denying that there's a Trump surge. There's just a question of, does he have enough time to come all the way back? Real Clear Politics, in the average of the polls, has a Hillary Clinton lead that was once double digits down to about 3 points this morning. So whether Trump can win, we don't know yet. But I can tell you, we were out at a Trump rally last night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and there was a number of people that we spoke to there. This one married couple kind of stood out because they had driven from this area, Philadelphia, and the key Philadelphia suburbs, about 2 hours to get out there. And this woman was telling me a very interesting story about a neighbor of hers, that if there are more people like this out there, it could be very good news for Donald Trump. The neighbor afraid to say who she was going to vote for. Watch this.
I exposed and that I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a Trump fan. And she looked at me and hesitated for about 2 minutes, and then she started coming out and was like, yeah, I think we're actually also voting for Trump. She's like, I cannot stand Hillary. I can't, and start talking about Hillary. And so a lot of people are silent about this.
Okay, so that's the case, you know, that the Trump supporters and campaign have been making, that there's somehow this silent support out there. I mean, obviously that is anecdotal, not scientific by any means, and the data tells us that Hillary Clinton still has an advantage in this state. But it also tells us, as I said a moment ago, that things are getting closer. So this evening, Katy Perry will be here for a concert, and Hillary Clinton will be back on Monday with the president and Mrs. Obama. So clearly there is some worry. And the one other point I'd make to you guys, there's a transit strike here in the city of Philadelphia. So if that's not wrapped up by Tuesday, there is some worry in the Clinton camp about turnout, because they really need turnout in this city. Back to you guys.
When in doubt,
Well, thank you.
Bring in Katy Perry.
Another reminder. Democrats done a good job running Philadelphia. I don't know.
I spent a lot of time in Philly. That's where I went to college.
Well, I mean, having your transit strike, though, getting people, I mean, where's your public transportation to get out to the polls? Philadelphia relies on SEPTA, relies on that public transportation. If you don't have it, that's a big problem.
It's going to be a challenge, right? Well, a new Clinton cash bombshell coming out this morning. It turns out Hillary did not disclose a major foreign donation while she was Secretary of State. Peter Schweitzer literally wrote the book on Clinton corruption. And guess what? He's joining us next.
And then does John Kerry know something we don't know? Wait till you hear what he's got planned for the day after the election. It does not involve kiteboarding. So Donald Trump the other day on the campaign trail said, I love reading these WikiLeaks emails. And you can see why, because there's a lot in there. Here's the latest bombshell. It comes from the Clinton Foundation. After new reports revealed that Hillary Clinton failed to disclose a $1 million gift from the country of Qatar, or Qatar as we used to call it, while she was still at the State Department. How did that happen, and what does it mean? Joining us now is the man who literally wrote the book on all this, Peter Schweitzer. He is the author of Clinton Cash. It inspired the investigation that the FBI is now doing in the first place. He's been interviewed multiple times by the Bureau. Peter, it's great to see you this morning. So tell us, how can she have received $1 million from a foreign country? I mean, that just seems so out of bounds. What are the details?
Yeah, it's completely out of bounds. When Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State, as a condition of taking that job, Tucker, they agreed to do a number of things. Have complete transparency, disclosing donors. Donations from foreign governments had to have pre-approval. In this case, that didn't happen. They didn't disclose it. And now this is multiple violations in this regard. So you have Qatar at a time when the Arab Spring is taking place. They're very anxious about what the U.S. position is going to be, giving $1 million to the Clinton Foundation, and the Clinton Foundation not disclosing that as they had agreed to do.
They're not required, or they were not required by law to do that? I mean, this was just a sort of gentleman's agreement she made?
Well, it was a written agreement with Barack Obama. To his credit, Barack Obama said, in order for you to be Secretary of State, you need to do this. Hillary Clinton also said to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee during her confirmation hearings there would be complete transparency. So they failed to live up with it. And the problem is, Tucker, of course, they're making promises now that there's not going to be any more foreign money. Bill's not going to give speeches. We got to take that with a grain of salt, or a grain of sand, actually, in a way, because they have not lived up to their previous commitments, and there's no expectation that they would now.
Just to sort of put this in context, I want to put a graphic on the screen of some of the money that the Clinton Foundation has taken from foreign governments. So 1 to 5 from Qatar, Saudi, 10 to 25 million. Kuwait up to 10, UAE up to 5, Brunei up to 5, Oman up to 5, Algeria up to $500,000. I mean, among many other things you notice, like, these are all countries in which women don't have,